Hello, adventurers, and welcome to the Micflayers podcast, coming to you from a sword day, a red day, ere the sun rises. I'm your host, Conor Martin, and joining me as always is my co-host, Mr. Martin O'Dwyer. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Podcast Men of the West. I'm melting, but otherwise I'm all right. How are you?
Oh my God, yeah. I was in Cancun last week, Martin, or 2 weeks ago, and it wasn't this hot. Somehow Ireland has just traded places with southern Mexico, and we are way warmer than that they are there. So.
Well, I was in Limerick last week, so go fuck yourself. Joking.
Yeah, no, you're okay. You're okay. I deserve that. I was slightly bragging. Hey folks, welcome back to our regularly scheduled podcasting.
Yes.
Obviously, we've had a little bit of a hiatus. I went away and got married, and then went on my honeymoon to Cancun and Vegas. Recommend Cancun, don't recommend Vegas.
Sorry to anyone from Vegas who may be listening.
I don't know how.
And big ups to Cancun, I guess.
Yeah, oh yeah, Cancun's amazing. I don't know how people grow up. Okay, I do, I guess, realistically, because I was only in the city center of Vegas. That's the strip. That's all the super commercialized, loud, neon signs kind of thing. Obviously, not all of Vegas is like that. It's like one section in the middle of town. I guess people who are from Vegas probably just avoid the strip at all costs. But like, yeah, it is otherworldly. It is a different planet when you are there.
Because they specifically don't let you see the sky, so you don't know what time it is.
Yeah, a little bit. And it's like it's very warm, but even like it's really arid. So even though it was clocking 40 some days, you didn't feel it nearly as much as if you were like in here in Ireland, but it's like 60% humidity and only 31 degrees, and we're dying.
And all of our houses are designed to hold heat in as much as possible.
Yeah.
We'll stop complaining about the weather
that
eventually, but it's part of our nationality. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm back now. We're back. Martin, can I just say, you did a phenomenal job while I was away.
I didn't, but thank you.
No, really, I thought they were very good videos.
It's like the fourth video on this channel with me in a fucking vest because it's just too damn warm. Our viewers have seen far too much of my neck and shoulders over the last 4 weeks.
I basically just took off. I somehow predicted the future. Something weathermen have been not doing for centuries, and I managed to take off like the hottest month and a half of the year, and avoid all of that, because my office here my office gets the sun most of the day, from about maybe 10 or 11 in the morning up until 9 o'clock at night when the sun is setting this time of year. My office here has the sun all day. And it's like single pane windows, so it might as well be a big bloody magnifying glass. And it gets so bloody warm. And I've been working in here. I was working here for 8 hours today, like.
Yeah. I've also moved, and yeah, my current office is tiny and in an attic, and surrounded by insulation, so it's terrible. But you know, stormbreaker.
Yeah, you can make it rain.
No, I've tried.
I'm just picturing you in your back garden just swinging it around over your head. Go, come on!
It's just me holding an axe in my back garden, screaming obscenities at the sky.
Yeah.
Oh.
Your regular Tuesday.
Yeah. Any day with a Y, really. Just me screaming into the abyss.
So Martin, I brought up your videos because I wanted to chat to you a little bit about one particular video that I was very excited about, because it literally came out on the internet the day I was getting on the plane for my honeymoon, and that was the Dungeons and Dragons movie trailer.
Ah, yes, the most viewed video on our channel, also the one I probably put the least effort into, as opposed to the week before, where I spent like a good 3 hours researching the Satanic Panic for the Stranger Things one.
Well, there you go. The lesson is never try.
I was literally about to say, trying is the first step to failure.
But yeah, no, that video, I watched that video because I watched the trailer about 5 or 6 times.
It's a great trailer.
Every time I was in the air, I was in the plane, and like every time though that I like landed, I'm like, okay, where's the Wi-Fi? I can watch that again and just see what else I can pick up on.
Yeah.
It's a great trailer. I like you, because you mentioned this in the video. I like you was not super enthusiastic when the stills came
It
out, the
was so
screenshots.
bad. It was so bad. I've had Halloween costumes that look better.
Yeah, it looked a little bit hammy and a little bit cosplay-y, and not good cosplay, but like
Yeah.
kind of very amateur
Like
cosplay kind
my
of stuff.
first anime convention. Kind
Yeah,
of
exactly.
cosplay, like, yeah.
And I wasn't super thrilled about it. And then the trailer came out, and I'm like, oh, this looks really good. I'm actually now super pumped about this.
Oh, I
Um,
was just like, oh, it's Fantasy Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm in.
yeah, we have the cast is unreal.
Very good.
The costumes. Do you know what? The costumes still look, even in motion, they still look a little bit hammy, a little bit
I
cheesy
didn't think
sometimes.
so.
But
Once they like, I thought like in that trailer, like once they had like I think I even like mentioned it. Like it was specifically, I was so down on the Paladin's armor. When I saw it, like that was the one that I really had a problem with. I was like, that was the one where I was like, I have had better Halloween costumes than what they put on this man in like a multi-million-dollar production. But then when it actually got into the trailer and they had like the appropriate lighting and scenes and shots and
yeah,
stuff, I was much happier with it. Like I
yeah,
actually quite liked it. I'm never a fan. I'm never a big fan of the armor that like emulates your abs. Like I've never really liked that. I just think like aside from like maybe like the Grecian style. Why can I not remember the actual technical term for this? It begins at C.
I don't know what you're talking about.
This is gonna drive me insane. In about 40 minutes, we're talking about something else. I'm gonna be like, it's this. Oh, curious. That's the goddamn word. But yeah, the Grecian one, like the Spartan one, where like you have they have like the abs in them and stuff, and that looks okay. But like I'm not a fan of that. When I saw that on him, I was like, ugh. But then like in the actual trailer, it looks cool, and I'm positive I saw him channeling a smite into a sword, so I'm in. Also, ballistic sword, where you like shot the top of the sword off.
And there was like a dagger left behind.
Yeah.
Hills. That was cool.
That was cool.
It was a really, the trailer honestly. Okay, here's the thing, right?
The trailer did so much work. Like I was so not happy, not looking for. I was like, I'd probably like stream this maybe when it comes to streaming services or whatever.
I would have definitely seen it in the cinema regardless, just to have the experience, even if it looked terrible. And if it looked bad and it was really bad, it might have been funny bad as well, you know. But that brought me from like a level of like 2 excitement to a level like 9 excitement out of 10. I am super pumped for this now.
There's like so many great little bits that show like so much attention to detail in like.
You know what it is? I was watching it, and like the source material, they clearly I would imagine Wizards probably had consultants and stuff like that.
If it's anything like when they hire someone to write a script for a comic book movie, which I only know about because I'm a big fan of Kevin Smith and I've listened to a lot of his podcasts. He's talked about the process before, where when he was hired to write a script for Superman, they basically gave him full access to the DC archives. Like he just went into a building and it was like every comic they'd ever done that if he needed to.
Was this the one that became Wild Wild West?
It's the one that was going to be Wild Wild West. It's the one that was going to be That was that's the one, Superman Lives. They had ended up becoming Superman Lives, where like Tim Burton directed it and Nick Cage was going to be Superman. And yeah, if you Google Nick Cage Superman, you can see him in the suit, with the like long black hair, from like
yes,
the
I'm
80s,
dabbing myself. Sorry,
like
I'm really
the 80s Superman. Well, I'd imagine like similar story with the D&D thing, where like whoever the guys were who wrote the script. I remember hearing something like the guys who wrote the script wrote something else like really good recently as well. But the guys or the people rather who wrote the script, I'd imagine they were just given access or like sent over as many D&D books as they wanted for reference and stuff, because there are some characters in the trailer that I didn't recognize, that I only found out who they were when I watched like the Bob World Builder video on the trailer. Like, do you know the big fat dragon?
Yes, yeah.
That's a dragon that lives under some like Dorigar city, and he keeps all their forges lit. And in order to get him to keep all their forges lit, the Dorigar feed him like really nice food and gold and precious minerals all the time. So he's got really chunky, and his name is Themberchild. which
Chode.
which is a great name for a fat dragon.
That is really cool. I'm pretty sure the two guys who are writing it are actually players themselves, which would make sense because they clearly, like, I'll put it to you this way: if this is if M. Night Shyamalan's Avatar movie is a 0 on a scale of understanding the source material.
Oh my god! Sorry, I googled. Sorry, I was just so shocked. I googled like D&D movie writers, and one of them is John Francis Daly.
Yeah.
Who is like Freaks and Geeks, and like he was
yeah.
like Lance Sweets on Bones. Don't judge me for loving Bones. I fucking love that show.
I didn't watch much of Bones, but I liked what I saw.
It was great. It was great. Yeah. Well, I just love everyone on the show. But that makes total sense. And the other guy is a guy called Jonathan Goldstein. And let's see, what else has he written? He wrote
Game Night Vacation.
Not a lot of stuff I've seen. I'll just be honest. But like, if the rest of the movie is like that trailer, I'm so excited.
I think he has writing credits on Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Also the Flash 23.
We'll see if that comes out.
If that comes out.
I don't want
that.
I saw right. This is the last thing I'll say about that in relation to that specific person. But I saw the best meme ever, and it was like my top 3 Predator movies of all time ranked, and it was like Predator. It was like Prey, Predator 1, and a screenshot of the Flash. And it was brilliant. It was like I got sent that when I was out for a few drinks with people, and I saw it start roaring laughing, and then I was like showing it to people, and you could see their eyes go like 1, 2, and then when I got to the third image, without fail, like every single person just started dying laughing. It was so good, so good.
But yeah, so like I think both these guys, I think they're familiar with, even if it's not 5e, they're familiar with the game.
I would be willing to bet like every bit of money I've saved that your man who played Lance Sweets and Bones and the guy in Freaks and Geeks has played D&D.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure they played D&D. They did play D&D in an episode of Freaks and Geeks, because all the younger group, which he was part of, made friend. There was one day where
I've never actually seen Freaks and Geeks. I've just seen screenshots of it from when I used to be on Tumblr back in the day.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Great show.
No, the ad I roll was for Tumblr, not Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah. No, there was an episode. James Franco was in it, and there was an episode where he was the older Burnout character.
James Franco was in it. Seth Rogen was in it.
You're one who plays. I know from other stuff as well. But Hawkeye's wife.
Oh yeah. She's Velma in Scooby Doo.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, she's in it as well. Like the cast is honestly like top notch. It's all people who went on to do really big things. Your one from the blonde one from Cougar Town is in it as well. Yeah, basically everyone there kind of went on to do bigger shows and stuff like that. Like, but yeah, so I'm really pumped about that. They everything about it, like in terms of like the design of the monsters and the way things look, and the like attention to detail. Ooh, I will call you out one thing.
Oh, go on.
When you were kind of predicting who the bad guy might be, you obviously watched Bob Worldbuilder's video. I saw a video by a guy who I'm blanking on now, can't remember his name, but he does world building videos and stuff as well. His name's not Bob though, and he predicted that a lot of things in the video line up that this might just be an adaptation of Tyranny of Dragons, and that horn is actually the horn like of dragon calling or something like that. And the wizard, which you call the lich, and I said this when I was watching it, and I'm going to call him out in this.
Is a Red Wizard of Thay.
Red Wizard of Thay, yeah.
And exactly. If you read more about them, you'll know that most of them are liches.
They're leaders of a lich. I'm sorry, I'm dabbing myself a lot. The new drinking game, folks. You drink every time Connor dabs his face with a rag because he's sweating so bloody much.
And you can give thanks that I didn't actually dab there, as I was tempted to.
I know. I've been tempted to make a dabbing joke since I sat down. I won't. Yeah.
No, but
resist.
No, like I'd be down for a Tyranny of Dragons adaptation. That'd be sick.
Yeah. And I mean, like, again, even
there are a lot of dragons in that trailer. Actually, now come to think of it, because there's Themberchild, there's the black dragon that's the start of the trailer, which I loved because it was so clearly acid breath as well. I loved that,
and it had the horns in the right.
Yes, I think I said that in the video as well. That it had the curving down horns and the crest on its head. So, yeah, this is how I indicate black dragon now.
Which makes no sense because the horns come out here.
No, the horn. Yeah, it's the horns, and he's got the crest on his head.
Oh,
black,
they do have a big fin.
black dragons and roosters.
Uh, oh god.
Yeah.
But yeah, that look. There was that, and also there was, I believe, as what point when they're in the city, and there's a statue that's brought to life of a smaller dragon.
Yes,
as well.
like a stone dragon or something like that.
Yeah.
I just had such strong Mulan flashbacks there when that came.
Yeah.
It's just like dishonor on you, dishonor on your
Dishonor on
party.
you, cow. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I really enjoyed that video, and I am super. Again, I'm just excited because it was something I wasn't at all excited about, and it turns out that now I'm very excited about. That was a nice kind of surprise to me.
Next March.
Martin.
Yes.
What do you like about fighters?
They just killed shit so well.
Cool. Yeah. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching.
Okay, if you want, like, that's the meme thing, but I think like a better way of putting that would be the way Jim Davis put it in one of the WebDM videos on fighters. And he was like, fighters inflict the best status effect of all time. They inflict the best status effect in the entire game on anything they fight, and that's death.
That's fair.
Like, he was like, so like fighters for me, I suppose, like, when you look at how they function mechanically on paper, not super interesting, but everything works together in concert to make a really, really useful, well, like, we'll say like the original cast of fighters and their subclasses that come out. Although the majority of fighter subclasses do just boil down to I hit it with my sword, or in the gunslinger's case I shoot it in the face. But like, yeah, generally speaking, it's not usually good to speak in generalities, but generally speaking, when it comes to fighters, yeah, mechanically they're pretty simple, but usually everything works in concert together to make them quite powerful. So they're easy to understand and very easy to execute, like at a base level. But like when it comes, in my opinion anyway, when it comes to combat, if you want it with fighters, in terms of combat, and as well then in terms of like your lore and your individuality and your customization and like everything else that you can do to build a character around the class, like in terms of like the lore of your character, shall we say. I honestly think fighters are the class that probably give you the most.
Agreed. I think they have the most flexibility. I think they have the I'm going to say something that sounds not good but is good. They have the least amount of flavor, but in the best way possible, because that means you get to add the flavor. With other classes, I feel like you can fall down rabbit holes and get kind of pigeonholed and other animal related things. Where, yeah, foxhole. If you want to play a ranger, for example, you kind of have to work against the current to not be that moody, brooding hunter who lives outside of town. If you want to be a wizard, you kind of have to go against the grain to not be the studious, nerdy type, you know, that studied in a college or under a master.
I feel like you kind of have to do that if you're a wizard, because wizards specifically learn all their... Wizards are the nerds of D&D. And that's saying
something.
But
I mean, like, you know, you could push against that by saying like, oh, I didn't study like formally. I was actually the son of a wealthy lord, and I just bought a load of books and read them all a lot, and that's how I learned magic.
Oh yeah, but you're still
you're
still a nerd who spent all his time indoors reading books, studying magic. Like you can't the sorcerer. You couldn't just be like, well, one day I got hit by a bolt of lightning, and now I'm a storm sorcerer.
Well, that's what I mean, though. I mean, that kind of goes to my point that. Even when you're trying to work against it, you still kind of have to be that smart, nerdy guy, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas, and again, with rangers, and the same can be said for monks, they kind of have to be disciplined and stuff like that. So, or to a degree anyway. And I feel like fighters, more so than any other class, you can apply your own flavors and personalities and motivations to them, and they have the best amount of character customization, and like they're the most solid, most even foundation for you to build on top of for your character, as opposed to others that might be uneven in certain regards, and you have to kind of level this bit off and build this bit up and stuff like that to try and make the character seem well-rounded.
Like, if you want a character that is wholly and totally yours, fighter is the best class to pick.
Exactly. The fighter is probably the one class that, not definitively, but in a large respect, I think you can only make original characters for, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like you're going to fall down into being, if you want to make a Storm Sorcerer, there's going to be someone who's going to compare you to Storm from X-Men. If you want to be...
but to be fair, that's literally because sorcerers are mutants.
Yeah, true. But if you want to make a wizard, you know, there's going to be someone who's going to compare you to Gandalf. You know,
Merlin,
it's
yeah.
yeah, or Harry Potter or something like that. It's or Merlin. It's always gonna be something like that. I feel like
Warlock,
fighters.
John Constantine. Yeah.
There you go. So yeah, I feel like there's a lot of stuff like that. But if you are a fighter, I feel like you have so few tropes or cliches attached to the fighter that you can create your own.
I would say requirements almost more so than tropes or cliches. Because like tropes and cliches aren't a bad thing. If you overuse them, they're a bad thing. But like what I think what you're more getting at is that like there's nothing impeding your customization of your character and making it wholly your own, even if you want to base it on other things. It was actually when you sorry, please continue. I do have a thing I wanted to get to as well.
No, go on.
So like a thing that's we're just gonna fucking jump into this. Yeah, we're fine. We're just gonna jump into this for like with 2 feet.
Martin, you cursed like 30 seconds into the podcast.
I know. Absolutely, yeah.
Look, we're done caring. We're done caring.
The algorithm hates us anyway. It's fine. But yes,
that's why we're not successful. The algorithm. We're actually great.
Definitely, 100%, definitely. No, the thing I was going to mention, because it's like literally the thing that always gets tossed around in the D&D community, is the fighters are boring. All you do is you hit it with a sword. I hit the thing with the sword. I hit the thing with a sword, and like, just to kind of knock that in the head straight away, I put together a small list, and all of these people are fighters. Ragnar Zoro from One Piece, Boromir, Legolas, Gimli, McCree from Overwatch, Genji from Overwatch, his brother Hanzo from Overwatch. Like a third of the League of Legends roster, they specifically have a class of fighters, and every one of them is different. Like any gunslinger, anyone whose whole thing is I am just so damn good with this weapon, or I am just so damn good with all of these weapons. The Predator is a fighter.
Yeah.
Like, and all of them are so different. Zoro from One Piece uses 3 swords, 2 in his hands, one in his teeth. The Predator has a laser fission cannon thing on its shoulder, and thermal vision and heat vision and all this crazy stuff, and wrist blades and spears. I watched Prey recently; it's great.
Heard good things.
It's so good. But my point is that like you are only limited by your own imagination when it comes to fighters. And the people who say that all it is I hit things with my sword, go and watch the 3rd campaign of Critical Role and watch Liam O'Brien play Orm. He has the boots of springing and striding, and literally every single time he goes to attack something, he's like, I'm going to walk forward, I'm going to kick off this bookshelf up here to flip over and behind them, and then I'm going to get behind them so I can flank them with Ashton, and I'm going to do like I'm going to action surge and do like 4 attacks. And he's like, I'm going to spin my sword and do this and that. And like, if you go back and watch any of the fights that I near to the Mighty Nine, but any of the fights that the Hells Bells have gotten into, or Bells Hells rather, have gotten into, every single time Orm is like flipping over things, or like there's they fought this like massive kind of monster like the Shade Creeper Mother at one point, and like everyone's like, oh no, what are we going to do? And he literally he had a rope of it's the rope I used to have in our original campaign.
Entanglement?
No, the rope of entanglement is the one you use to tie people up. It's the rope of climbing. I'm an idiot. It's the one that like, you can tell to knot and like snake its way up a wall for you and stuff. Yeah. He had one of those, and they were fighting this thing and it was going bad. So what he did was he tied the rope around the thing and then fed the rope into a machine that had these big kind of churning gear things in it, and dragged this giant monster into the teeth, like the grinding teeth of this machine, and destroyed its health pool with it. And that's even without using action surge. And like, I honestly, like, I'm going to be really harsh, okay? I'm going to be like super harsh. Fighters aren't boring. You get off your ass and do something interesting.
Oh snap. You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
That's not true. You heard it plenty of places before.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Martin said it now, so it means something.
No, it doesn't. I have no authority. I have no authority other than I've played a lot of fightery type characters.
You go back to your DM and you say, my fighter now has these 7 quirks, and Martin told me so. And they'll say, who's Martin? And you'll say, oh, he's this guy I watch on a podcast. It's called the Micflayers podcast. Have you heard of it? And they'll go, no, I definitely haven't heard of that ever. And you go, you should listen to it. It's really good. Here, I'll send you a link. And you go, don't send me a link. I'm not going to listen to it on a bunch of podcasts.
And then you'll do that to like 10 of your other friends and make them send it to 10 of their friends. And you can tell them if they don't, this like girl with like long black hair hanging down over her face, like dripping water, is going to appear at the end of their bed at the end of the night, like those chain text messages we used to get in the early 2000s.
Oh yeah, oh my god, yeah. Wow. That was on my Nokia 3210. Like, wow, that's a throwback. Um,
But yes, like
yes.
I'm very much of the opinion. I have, like, as you may have guessed, I have very strong feelings about martial classes, but fighters in particular.
Yeah.
I think fighters should just straight up get any weapon they pick up after a certain level should count as magical. They should just be able to get past magical resistance. I will die on that hill as well. Like I like
So passionate.
like no like monks like at fifth at it's either fifth or sixth level monks get
Sixth
key.
level, I think.
Yeah, they get key empowered strikes. I do not see why like, and monks can do more than fighters. Like monks have a bunch of crazy stuff they can do just built into
Monks
their
just
base class.
stop caring about gravity after a while.
Yeah, and I think where it comes into, and it's a point I saw raised on Twitter, as well, is that D&D was not play tested at high level. It was not play tested past level 10.
No,
Like,
not
well,
really.
fifth edition to be specific. Fifth edition was not
Yeah,
play tested
yeah.
past level 10. And I can't remember which Twitter account it was one of the ones we follow on the podcast Twitter. Someone was like, martial classes should get 9th level maneuvers that are equal in strength and power to a 9th level spell. And I couldn't agree more. Like martial
Yeah.
classes need a way to break the game, other than just in the action economy. And really,
yeah, I mean, that kind of makes sense, really. Like.
and really only fighters can break the game in the action economy with action surge, because like by the time, like actually to be fair, by the time if you go full fighter, by the time you get 20 level, you're attacking 4 times in 6 seconds, which is insane. That's an attack a second. I attacked you 5 times there. Like,
Yeah.
You know.
I would say there's this weird kind of, I guess, like a falsity with fighters where they have. So if you were to look at like a fighter compared to like a wizard, let's say, who would be kind of known to be a more
The
complex
old
class.
linear fighters, quadratic wizards thing.
Well, no, I was gonna say like kind of the opposite way actually.
But that's
Because-
the long held belief, is that like when it comes to damage, fighters are a linear scale and wizards are quadratic because they exponentially scale once they get to like the 5th
Oh,
level.
not
they
even
get fireball and
damage.
shit.
Not even damage based. No, what I mean is like, so it would seem, I think, from people looking from the outside maybe, that if you want to play a fighter, it's like every single turn is I move, I roll dice, I hit, I move, I roll dice, I hit. That's
There-
what
there,
the
there
that's
is
what
some
the
truth
belief
to
is.
that. To be totally
There
honest
is
and
a
fair,
bit.
there
There is
is
a
some
bit.
truth to that.
But there's also, and then with wizards you're like, oh well, I can cast this 5th level spell, or
Yeah.
I can cast this 6th level disintegrate, and I can just turn someone to ash, and that's mechanically more powerful. But there's also a certain mundaneness with just picking a spell off a pre-written list of spells, and the spell is set a certain way. You can't change the context of the spell. It functions a certain way, and then you just cast that spell, and it does the damage, and that's it done. There's something kind of even a little bit overly straightforward about that. Whereas I've had experiences, 2 experiences in particular I can talk about, where, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think all classes are fun to play, but I've 2 of my favorite moments I've ever played have both been in games of yours, and I've been playing a fighter both times.
Yeah, I know one of them anyway.
So there was one where I was playing a half-orc Eldritch Knight. And Eldritch Knight, people don't give Eldritch Knight enough of a look. It's a good class. If you know what you're doing, it's a really good class.
EK is
and
pretty strong.
that's the thing. Wizards, longer descriptions for the same attack. It's like, here's 3 paragraphs for how you attack once with this spell, versus fighter, 1 line, roll this, hit with that, go. And it seems like one of those is more boring than the other, but in my opinion, it's actually the wizard, because again, the spell is not changing. You're always casting the spell the same way. When you're a fighter, you can combine things like action surge and like dashing, and like you can use maneuvers from Battle Master, and you can kind of make your thing, or you can shove people and all this. You have a lot of stuff you can do, and you can be more creative with fewer tools as a fighter, than rather than someone giving you. It's almost like someone saying, here's all these pre-made tools. As a wizard, you can choose any one of them, and there's a lot of options there. But as a fighter, here's 5 tools, but you can use them in any combination you want, and you can do multiples of them in a single turn, as opposed to a wizard who can only pick 1 out of this wide list of things to do. Like, so the 2 times I was playing Eldritch Knight, we fought a spider thing. I
This is
hit
during
her.
the Dark Souls one shot I ran, I think.
Yeah. So I hit her with a, I believe I hit her with a shocking grasp. And then I was like, okay, shocking grasp, and then bonus, and then you were like, oh, yeah, she looks like she's vulnerable. She took extra damage from that. I'm like, oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Then I shocking grasped her. I knew she wasn't able to react to take a reaction against me. So I'm like, great, bonus action. I'll use my weapon attack to like X and Eldritch Knight, and then move away. Can't take opportunity attack. I get back to 30 feet, whatever, 20 or 30 foot distance. And then I'm like, action surge, because I've only used a cantrip so far.
Yep.
Now I'm going to cast a spell of 3rd level, which is my highest slot I think I had at the time, and I cast a chromatic orb with lightning damage. And that combination of stuff was one of my favorite moments.
Was it not absorb elements? You like absorbed elements and then like ruined with like, it was like a sword strike enchanted with lightning or something like that.
No, they were, it was chocking grasp, regular sword strike, move away, chromatic orb.
Gotcha. Chromatic orb is so strong.
Oh, it's a great spell. It's so versatile. But yeah, I decimated our health pool in that round, and it was so fun. And it felt way more earned than if I had just gone fireball and then rolled to damage. You know, like that. It's way more gratifying because I had a cool combination using my limited resources. I made a very cool combination and string of moves. Likewise, you ran one not long ago where I played a Cyanide. Cyanide is so.
Cyanide's pretty fun.
Psy Warrior. Cyanide.
Cyanide, yeah.
It's Psy Warrior.
Ah, damn it. Yeah.
I always say Knight.
Yeah. That's because what it was called originally.
It was. Psy Warrior and Psy Warrior Dragonborn, and I think in like one round,
you picked the like psychic damage Dragonborn as well. You picked the new crystal
Amethyst, I think.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I looked at the battlefield, and we were playing online. I looked up at the battlefield, and I was like, okay, let's have a look here now. I have 4 attacks, and I can also bonus action do. I think I could do a breath as a bonus action.
Yeah, you could use your breath weapon as a bonus action.
So I can't remember the exact combination, but I basically went like, okay, bonus action. Oh no, it wasn't. It was bonus action. I can give myself a fly speed, which is double my walking speed as using some of my psychic energy. So I basically described that. I'm like, I'm going to stay at ground level. I'm going to be like static shock, just zooming along the ground as if I have like psychic skates on. And I kind of zip around, and I planned out my movement. So I'm like, okay, I know I can get to this guy, and then this guy, and then this guy over here for 2 final attacks. So I went zoom, attack, action surge, zoom, attack, and I hit 3 people. I think I killed 2 of them, and I hit 3 people in a single round. And I like cinematically in my head, that was so gratifying and so cool. Fighters are awesome.
Sorry, my alarm that I had set for the last 2 weeks to post the weekly videos I was doing just went off hilariously in the middle of our podcast. But yes, no, fighters are awesome. Like I played a lot of one shots, and I've tried I'd say like probably half the classes in the game at this point. In terms of like, now obviously like it's a little more reduced because I've basically tried nearly every class because I'm a DM. And I can honestly say, as a player anyway, I have never felt more powerful than action surging as a fighter. Like that,
they're the only people who get to do a whole other action. It's so fun, like, and you always pull, like, if you're smart and you don't like just blow them whatever, and you pull them out at a crucial moment. It feels like you have a thing you do as your current character, Lug. We call it the Lug maneuver, where he is raging. He has grown to the size of a giant, so he's the size large. He action surges at the start of a turn. He reckless attacks, so he gets 4 attacks at advantage, and on the first 3 attacks he spends all 3 of his Battlemaster superiority dice that he got from the feat or custom feat. So he does like advantage. You usually crit on 1 or 2 of them at least.
Yeah, when that fight we had where I fought that Etten 1-on-1. And like Arkham cast enlarge on me then, so I went from large to huge. So right. I was like, I was the same size. I went from like normal human size in the turn to same size as the Etten, and I killed him that turn. Like I'd hit him once. I hit him once. That was a 3-round thing. Yeah, I think he went and you blocked him, and then you went. Yeah, it was 4. It was 2 rounds and 4 turns. Yeah, it was he went, you blocked all his attacks. You went and did like a bit of damage. He went and did a little bit of damage to you. Yeah. And on the 4th round, you just annihilated. You absolutely wrecked. It was like the second, because like the first time he hit me, I wasn't raging, so I took like a decent chunk of damage because he was the guy. He was the guy with like the stone gauntlets that was like just absolutely messing me up. And then second turn I raged. And like to get everything in line to do the whole to output the most amount of damage I can output in a turn, but like it takes like 3 turns to set up, because I have to rage, which is a bonus action, then I have to giant might, which is a bonus action, and like then on that turn, rage, giant might. Yeah, there's nothing else I need to do as a bonus action. I think.
So it's 2, and then like on your second turn, you can then use your action surge to do all the rest of it. So really only 2 turns.
It's 2 turns worth of setup. Oh no, sorry, yeah, that was it. Oh, that was back when I had the other rune, when I had the frost rune as well, so I could do 3 turns, and I'd go like rage, giant might, add another +2 to my strength, from my rune knight stuff.
Oh, that was it.
That was the old 3 turn setup, but I changed out my runes, so I don't really have that anymore. So I now I just go rage, giant might, action surge on that turn, and like that was like, yeah, that was just so much damn. I literally.
That's what we call the hot start. two turns or 2 rounds in, and Lug just absolutely annihilates the main baddie in the enemy party.
It's super useful. Like action surge is like, as opposed to just for using it all for like 4 or 5 or 6 attacks on, or even 8 attacks if you go 20 levels of fighter. Because 8 attacks.
That's insane.
8 attacks at level 20, which is just like, I nearly said, I got stuck between bonkers and bananas, and nearly said banonkers.
Banonkers works. It's absolutely banonkers.
Yeah. But like, yeah, you can use it's so useful. Like it's arguably probably the most powerful class feature in the game, for the level you get it at, because you only need to dip 2 levels into fighter to get action surge.
Yeah.
And there's so many 2-level fighter dips where you go like cleric fighter for 2 levels, and then you get action surge, and you can like.
And here's the thing, power wise as well, right? Because I know you were saying about like wizards and stuff having high level spells and all that. Fighters essentially get to cast what when you hit like 17th level, right? You're doing, if you just have a long sword, so you have a d8, and you have 4 d8, that's like 16, 32, right?
And then by then you probably have at least 20 strength as well, so that's 5, so that's 4 times 5
even if we
is
say
20.
if we say 18 and be conservative, right? So you have 4 is 8, that's 16 on top of that, so that's 38, 48 points of damage, right? Your 48 points of damage is like, I don't know, a 4th or 5th level spell every single turn.
Yeah.
Like, and it's a bit like the whole argument of what you want in the zombie apocalypse: a shotgun or a sword because you don't have to reload it. You don't have to reload your sword every single turn. You're basically hitting multiple times with the overall power of a 4th or 5th level spell. And whereas wizards and warlocks and clerics all run out of spell slots.
Yeah, and like with spells as well, then you've like some really, really powerful spells are still save or suck spells. So if the person saves, nothing happens. But like all I have to do is roll over 20 on an attack roll, and I'm going to hit like 90% of things in the game.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, by the time you're that level as well, you're talking about 6 proficiency. Again, even if we say you have 4, that's a +10 to hit.
Yeah.
Assuming you don't have any bonuses on your magic weapons, which you probably do realistically, or +1 or +2. So you're talking about between 10 and 12 to hit. Like, yeah, you're going to hit most things. Like you'll
find like most things that aren't like heavily encased in armor top out around 18, 19 as well with armor class.
Yeah, and any sort of like natural creatures that don't, not counting dragons of course, but any sort of naturally occurring creatures that aren't wearing any sort of makeshift armor or something, they'll cap out before they hit the 20 mark.
And like when it comes to stuff like giants are just massive sacks of hit points. They all have like between 12, like unless it's like a fire giant,
most of them have dirt armor class.
It's normally like between 12 to 18 as the armor class, and if you're like a 17th level fighter, you've probably just got to roll like a 5 to hit that, like, you know.
Even less. I'm pretty sure like hill giants have like a 12.
It is 12. Yeah, it's a hill giant is 12. Yeah.
So yeah, not that strong at all.
Like I know because I specifically had to buff giant armor class for doing the my like sci-fi like storm giant stuff, where I had storm giants that were like half metal that had like replaced all of their biological parts with like steel and chromium and stuff.
Yeah.
And so they had armor class of like 20.
I do love doing that every now and again, just being like, oh, it's a direwolf but made of metal, and just like, because fuck you. Martin, do you want to go through some of the subclasses?
Yes, sure. I have thing up here.
We're gonna go kind of relatively fast. We have a bit of time left, but we're not too bad. But we're gonna go. Oh no, what am I saying?
We've plenty of time.
We're grand. Yeah, we're good. Let's just start at the bottom.
Okay.
All right.
Like as in like the bottom of the list or the worst?
Bottom of the list.
Okay, right. Because the worst one is not at the bottom of the list. It's 3 from the bottom.
It's 3 for the yeah. So bottom of the list alphabetically is samurai.
Yeah.
What do you think of the samurai?
I actually really like the samurai as I think it's something that was definitely needed as an archetype for the fighter. Just for all the weebs out there who play DD, I'm not judging. Yeah. I watch a shit ton of anime. But yes, like samurai, absolutely, that's an like I feel like if you're going like because originally, if you remember the or if you know, the original name of the class was not fighter, it was fighting man. And like that was to like indicate that you were someone who is like trained and an expert in weapons and armor and all that kind of stuff. And
yeah.
To carry that on into the legacy of the fighter, like I feel like there are certain styles of like warrior and soldier and fighter that have become so endemic in pop culture that if you do not have some kind of representation of that in your game, that it feels like a very like almost like an elephant in the room kind of thing. Like it's like we probably need one of these. So like the samurai I would class as one of those. Like everyone knows what a samurai is. It's like samurai, pirate, Viking, like archer, gunslinger, like
Roman legionnaire.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Like I over the Roman legionnaire, I would put in the Greek hoplite instead. Like yeah. But you know what I mean. Like there are certain archetypes of like warrior that you kind of have to have in the game, and I think samurai is very much one of them. I think it's like a super powerful. It's actually really strong. Like in my opinion, like it's got.
Oh yeah, you know, it's a really decent class. That I've only run for a samurai once.
You played samurai in a one shot I ran once before, I think.
I don't think so.
No, I think that might have been Mike. Sorry.
I ran for a samurai before, and that fighting spirit ability.
That thing is so good.
It's really if we were to do it nowadays, there would be one caveat to it, and that's that instead of having this feature 3 times, you regain all uses when you finish a long rest. You'd probably have proficiency bonus number of times per long rest, something like that. But other than that, I mean, honestly, it's really good, and it only gets better when you consider that one, you gain more temp HP as it levels, so it gives you 5 initially when you use it as a bonus action, but then it gets to 15 at 15 level. So you're giving yourself back a little bit of temp HP, and then you are getting advantage on all your attacks, and it gets even more powerful when you consider that you are doing more attacks as you level up as well every single turn. And then if you action surge, you're talking about at like 17th level, you're talking about 8 attacks, all with advantage, and giving yourself a temp HP bonus.
So
it's a really cool ability.
The samurai is actually like a really, really good example of what I was talking about when we first started talking about fighters, where on paper it's not like a super interesting, like mechanically kind of the way it's described. But everything works in concert together really well to make it all really powerful. So like the first thing you get, because you get your fighter archetype at level 3, you get fighting spirit. Fighting spirit, you get you get advantage on weapon attack rolls at the end of your turn, and you get 5 temp hit points, and then that scales, right? Then once you get into level 10, you get tireless spirit. When you roll initiative and have no uses of fighting spirit remaining, you regain 1 use. Great, absolutely great. And then stacked on top of that, then when you get another 5 levels in, you have rapid strike. You learn to trade actually for swift strikes. If you take the attack action on your turn and have advantage on the attack roll against one of the targets, you can instead forgo that advantage for that roll and make an additional weapon attack against the target as part of the same action. So like you fight in spirit, so you have advantage on all your attack rolls until the end of your turn. Then you go rapid strike, so you get another, so you forgo 1 roll of an advantage to get another attack in that round, and that attack then has advantage because of fighting spirit. And then when you get to 18th level, then you hit the capstone for samurai, strength before death. At 18th level, your fighting spirit can delay the grasp of death. If you take damage, it reduces you to 0 hit points and doesn't kill you outright, so twice your HP. You can use a reaction to delay falling unconscious, and you can immediately take an extra turn. That's not including your action surge. You can immediately take an extra turn. These guys
are basically the zealot barbarians of fighters.
Yeah, it's that whole like unkillable fighting spirit kind of thing that's very common in Japanese media and stuff.
It's the Naruto thing.
It's Rock Lee.
It's every anime character ever. But I always think of Naruto when he's like when he's absolutely pummeled. He's clearly fighting someone better than him. He's been beaten up multiple times. He's black and blue, and he gets up and he's like, no.
Oh, when he headbutts Gaara?
I think I'm thinking more about when he was fighting Neji.
Oh yeah.
And Neji, all his chakra was gone, and then, but he was the demon came out and he was just like, no, I'm gonna be Hokage, and like he's just so determined that he will not give up, and that's kind of what this is to me.
Yeah, but like it's exactly what I mean though, where like the first thing you get is fighting spirit, your 10th level ability builds on that, and now you're always going to have it when you need it, because if you're out of it, you're at least going to have one of those when it comes in. Then your 15th level ability builds on that again, where you can now do additional attacks just for sacrificing advantage on one attack. And then 18th level ability builds on 3rd level ability again, and now you can just take an extra turn and not die. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it starts off with one concept that's pretty simple that you can get used to, and then stacks more features later that build onto that. So by the time you get to 18th level, you're like, right, I have fighting spirit. I can do these 3 things with my fighting spirit, depending on what I want to do.
I will say that rapid strike at 15 level is kind of a dark horse, because like it seems like, oh great, like, you know, maybe an extra attack, but there's no limits and no resources spent on that. So basically, you find someone prone, extra attack. You're flanking someone, extra attack. Like, you just get one whole other strike with your weapon.
So there's a very important last sentence in Rapid Strike, and it's, you can do so no more than once per turn. If that line wasn't there, you could Fighting Spirit, Action Surge, and then trade the advantage on all of your Action Surge attacks. So that's, like, we'll say 20th level, that's 8 attacks. And so you just go, no, just take those 8 attacks as regular attacks. So now you have 8 more attacks.
You 16, yeah.
It would be absurd.
It stops you from doing that. But I mean, even then though, I mean, like, even if it's over multiple rounds, think about that, right? If you have a 3-round combat, right?
Yeah.
And in that combat, you and one of your other melee characters are flanking enemies constantly. If you even get 1 extra attack in those 3 rounds, you've gone from, like, I don't know, you've gone from having, like, instead of like 9 attacks, 12 attacks in that, because 9 attacks is your 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 standard at that level. And then you're talking about getting an extra attack every single turn. That stacks a lot. You know, particularly if you're 15th level, you probably have some sort of really badass sword or spear or something that you're using.
And if you don't, slap your DM.
We don't encourage violence here.
I do. If you're level 15, if you're level 15 and your DM hasn't given you a magic sword yet, slap him in the face.
Or you know, just other games out there.
Slap him in the face. I'm shitposting. I'm sorry. But yes, the samurai, really good, and a perfect example of what I meant. Where, like, fighter gives you like a simple concept when you start, and then stacks more and more on top of that to build on top of that. It's just like this really efficient machine that just pumps out damage.
Really underrated fighter. To be honest with you, I'll say. I think maybe calling the subclass samurai is maybe limiting, because what they said it when they were bringing out this class, they were like, this isn't really a samurai in the cultural sense, but more of what the pop culture imagines a samurai to be.
It's your anime
and I'm like,
samurai.
that's fine. It's your anime samurai. It's not necessarily trying to adhere to real Japanese culture.
This
more
is Afro samurai. This is Afro samurai, or like
basically, yeah.
Yeah, or actually, do you know what? This is exactly. I mentioned him when I was talking about all different. This is Roronoa Zoro from One Piece. Like, if you were playing a samurai in my game and you were like, I want to use 3 swords, and one of them's in my teeth, I'd be like, all right, but you can do that. You can, and when you get to 17th level, you might be able to attack with all 3 of them together in one round.
But yeah, that's I feel like calling this samurai kind of pigeonholes what the concept of the class is a little bit. I would advise anyone who's looking at samurai and like,
but like
maybe
samurai
feels
were
like
archers as well.
Oh, they were, and like,
And
I think this works with archers, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Samurai
Advantage on attack rolls.
Like, it's like the iconic weapon of the samurai is obviously the katana, but like they use you could be a great sword samurai fighter and use like
they were trained
and
reskin
that as a I think if I remember right, I think they were called nodachi. And then there's
they're
really long ones. They're for cutting down horses. Then there's like they use like the Yumi bows, those crazy big long bows where you draw it over your head and bring it down like this, so you can use your back muscles to draw it. They also had naginata, so you can do a pole arm fighter samurai as well. Like you're not limited to just the sword, but in terms of what you're saying, where like it's not the cultural samurai from Japan, it is the pop culture anime comic book movie kind of samurai. Totally.
Like, if someone came to me and said they wanted to play a samurai, I'd be like, great. Keep in mind, there's other weapons other than longsword there. You could be a lot of different stuff with this class, and it could be very, very good.
Actually, speaking of that, the one thing I actually think is, I was surprised they didn't introduce along with the samurai, was the katana for 5e. Like, the katana is not standard in 5e.
I mean, Yeah, true. It's a what would it be? It'd basically be a lot of Dex
it'd be a
longsword.
Dex longsword. Like I've introduced it in one shots and stuff when people are playing like samurai or wanted a katana, and I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
why not? Like,
Well, I think it kind of disrupts the power. Does it? Do you know what? It doesn't really, because when you think about it, you can have a one-handed rapier that's a D8.
yep,
I don't know. It may, because the thing is, Dex is already so OP in fifth
yeah.
edition that, like, do you want to give Dex users yet another thing that's as good as everything Strength is
like,
using and stuff? You know?
Well, like Dex is already so insanely imbalanced in D&D. I really don't think it would make a difference. Like, if you look at the amount of things you can use Strength for and the amount of things you can use Dex for, it's like what we were saying. The Strength versus Dex thing is almost like the Fighters versus Wizards thing, in that like Dex is used for everything, and then Strength is used for like 3 things. But if you get real creative with those 3 things, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Like,
And also, there's no substitute for those 3 things. If a boulder needs to be moved,
you
gotta move the boulder.
cannot Dex grapple someone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So like that, I also think as well, like there's a point in a campaign where if someone's playing like a martial class, particularly a strength based martial class, like a strength fighter, there's a point in the campaign they get you where when you start fighting, like when you're fighting like high level spellcasters, you just stop hitting them with your sword, and instead what you do is you run up to them and you grab them by the hands and you just don't let go. Like I did that to the big bad in our first campaign. I hit him like 3 or 4 times really hard in our final fight, and then I just ran up to him and held him down so he couldn't cast spells. Like, you have to get creative with strength to really take the full effect of it, and sometimes it means not attacking, which are really cool weapon. Sometimes it just means grabbing a nerd by the wrists and holding them.
There's a weird kind of like pattern in how, like, if someone was just starting to play D&D, you'd be like, oh, play a fighter because they're like straightforward. But then, like, when you get more used to the rules, you'd be like, oh, play like a wizard or an artificer because they have way more rules, but you can handle it now.
Yeah.
But then after a while, you're like, no, I'm going to take the really complex mindset I have of a wizard and apply it to a fighter. That's big brain moment right there.
Yeah.
You know?
And like it's another thing I kind of like vaguely touched on, I suppose, when I was talking about it, when I was just rambling earlier. But with fighters as well, you can really like, if you really want to get the most out of like fighters, a thing you kind of have to pay attention to, and like not so much if you're playing like, I suppose, maybe like Theater of the Mind or you don't use minis, but if you're playing with a group that uses maps and minis and terrain and all that, positioning with fight like I'd say martial classes in general, but particularly for fighters, positioning and like where you are in the battlefield and how that influences the flow of combat. I think when we were talking about the giant options and the bugbear, and we were talking about how ridiculous, like the amount of space you could control with that bugbear with the rune knight thing. Once you go up to like the ability to grow a size huge, and something like, was it something like 21 spaces you could control?
Something crazy like that.
It was like 14, 17, 21 spaces, something crazy like that. And like it's the thing, like you can read, like if you pay attention to where you are and like the abilities you have, and you pick the right combination of like weapons, feats, and skills, you can properly lock down and control a battlefield as a fighter.
Absolutely. Move on to the one above. We go Rune Knight.
Yeah, sorry,
you're playing Rune Knight.
Yes, I'm playing the archived version at the moment. Personally speaking, at the moment, I think if I had to pick like a top 3 fighter subclasses, I would go number 1 Rune Knight, number 2. Oh, actually, do you know what? Yeah, number 1 Rune Knight, number 2 probably like Gunslinger, Psy Warrior together, like kind of level, and then number 3 Battlemaster. But that has shifted. I also think Battlemaster should just be like, everyone should be a Battlemaster. Every fighter should have maneuvers. It's stupid that every fighter doesn't have maneuvers.
When I was researching for this episode, like a lot of stuff I saw online, there's a lot of consensus out there that maneuvers or not, rather superiority dice should have been the base economy for fighters, and then all abilities for subclasses should be powered by that.
110%. Maybe not the abilities powered by that. I still think proficiency bonus works better than the sub. Like, I think some of your abilities should be based off your proficiency bonus. And that,
but I mean, like in terms of like your moves, the special moves, you can power that way.
Oh, 100%.
If for no other reason then after a while it becomes very hard to think of a new type of point to give a fighter with a different theme and a different name, you know.
Oh, look, I put a shitload of work into making Lug like super unique and different, and his own like very specific. I still just go, I'm gonna stab him with my spear. like ever so often, because there's only
Yeah.
like there's only so often you can be like, I'm gonna spin the sword over my head and I come down with a slash and cut him from like shoulder to hip and all this kind of stuff. There's only so many times you can describe stuff like that, particularly if you're action searching and you're attacking like 5 times in a round, till your party is gonna be like, we get it, okay, we get it, right, you hit him with the sword.
With Rune Knight, Rune Knight is good for a few reasons.
Rune Knight is excellent. I actually saw a graph, because I know you were talking about the Wizards versus Fighters thing and the late game damage. There was a guy who posted he had kept an Excel spreadsheet, or like he kept like an Excel spreadsheet of damage done over the course of a campaign. And by I think the campaign topped out at level 18, and by level 18 the Rune Knight fighter had done more damage than the wizard.
I believe it.
Yeah,
here's the thing: is like your wizards are definitely, like, let's say, round to round doing more damage, but wizards can miss, and wizards can like, that's they only get the one shot really.
Like.
Yeah, exactly. And like, but fighters, they get, if you have 4 attacks and you miss one, but you get the other 2, you're still doing something. Wizards, I think, wizards type rather, but fighters are a more consistent, reliable level of damage, whereas wizards are big swing, maybe hit, maybe not.
Yeah, absolutely.
With Rune Knight is really cool, really flavorful, and obviously it gives you stuff that like no other fighter gives you, which is the ability to like grow to a larger size.
I do wish this was a little more similar to the giant options. I can't remember the name. I should really know.
The UA we talked about.
The UA we talked about
on the last
episode. The barbarian one. I really wish it had more similar features to that. Like, I think the runes are good. They are good. And like, particularly after so the original UA than the one that I'm currently running, you get more runes at a lower level, and you have more powerful runes at a lower level. The current one rewards you for investing further into fighter. Like, you get some really powerful stuff, particularly like the 18th level ability. I think it's called like Mighty the Allfather. No, Runic Juggernaut. You learn how to amplify your rune powered transformation. As a result, the extra damage you deal with giants might increases to a D10. Moreover, it increases the use. Where's the one? Oh, that used to be called Allfather's Blessing, and you used to be able to make your party grow with you when you grew.
Oh, that's in your archive version, is it?
Yeah, in the archive version, if you go to the 18th level, it's called like the Allfather's Blessing, and you could like, you used to be like, all right, giant might time, and the whole squad gets giant might size, like very Power Rangers calling the Megazord kind of thing.
Yeah. But I mean, what I like about Rune Knight is it has a very distinct flavor, but also it gives you options with the different types of runes you can attach to your weapons and armor and stuff like that.
And you tap out you tap out for the runes in fighter level at level 15 with 5 runes known, and like by that time, like, what, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's only 6 runes.
Yeah.
Like, you can
and
have, you know 5 by level 15. Like,
I will say that is something I kind of don't like, because in my mind
it should be 6 really.
No, I was gonna say, like, if you have, if there's a list of like, I don't know, if there's a list of 5 things, right? Well, in this case, there's 6, and you get to pick 5 of them. You're only really deciding you don't like one, and then the only difference is what order do you pick the other ones in. But the problem is, if you have 2 Rune Knights, or one person plays a Rune Knight this campaign, one person plays the next campaign, they end up following the same path. Maybe it's just a different order, but they will end up at the same place. I wish there was maybe pick 5 out of 8 or 5 out of 9, and then there's always going to be some that people aren't going to pick, instead of just
Yeah, and like some of the abilities you get are not to be sniffed at either. Like the I think it's Stone Rune, is it? No, sorry, Stone. See, this is so messed up for me, because all of my stuff it has the same name, but it does very different things.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah.
Fire, cloud. Did they get rid of the one where you get like resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing?
That was the hill giant one.
That was the hill one. Yeah. Because I have that one. I have that one with Logan in case I ever have to fight and I'm out of rages.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. Here you go. Hill Giant 7th level. In
Oh,
addition,
there
you
it is.
invoke
Yeah.
the rune bonus action, gain resistance, bludgeon, piercing, and slashing for 1 minute. Once you invoke this rune, you can't do so again to finish.
That one I took. That is super powerful because you can invoke it to get the barbarian resistances, and just passively you have advantage on saving throws against being poisoned, and you have resistance to poison damage. So it's giving you 4 kinds of resistance.
Yeah, I think actually maybe the only thing they changed about that since the archive one is this is locked at 7 level. You have to be 7 level.
That's
whereas
when
you took it at a lower level.
Yeah, that's the main thing, which is also why I didn't want to update.
Yeah.
No, Hill and Storm, which are the 2 ones I currently have, are locked are both locked behind 7th level. And I really, really want my ghosts to be able to fuck people up, so I have to go to 14 levels of Barb.
That's fine. That's fair.
Yeah.
Move on to Purple Dragon Knight.
This is the worst fighter. This is the worst fighter. It's terrible and awful. Don't play it.
No, do you know what? Straight up, yeah. Here's the thing, right? This is basically the base fighter class, and all the abilities it can do are basically like 3 or 4 feats you can take from the feats list anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say Purple Dragon Knight was basically had its lunch stolen there by the Heroes of Kryn Unearthed Arcana, because everything you can do you can take as a feat from the Heroes of Kryn feats.
Not even that, but I mean, even vanilla feats in the thing, you can get stuff for blocking your allies and all this other crack. Oh, yeah. You could basically make this if you did nothing else, took no subclass, and then instead just took a feat at each of those levels instead. You could build something as good as this, which realistically your subclass should be doing more for you than a feat should be doing.
Yeah, and like you can also do way more things than this and fulfill the fantasy that this is trying to fulfill way better if you just take Oath of the Crown Paladin.
Yeah. There is, look, like I said, we won't say it long. Basically,
it's a trap.
It's a trap. The Purple Dragon Knight came out with the Sword Coast Adventurers Guide, and there's a couple other classes and stuff like that. Just the Long Death, and I think wasn't there a barbarian one that wears spiked armor?
The Battle Rager.
They basically came out in that book, and then Wizards after a few years said, hey, you know that book, it doesn't matter anymore, forget about it. If
I remember right as well, they got rid of certain classes because they reprinted all the Skag stuff in Xanthars, and
they kept some of the spells.
Yeah, they kept but they did not reprint Way of the Long Death and Purple Dragon Knight.
The Wizard one, the Sword Wizard one.
Sword Coast?
Bladesinger,
yes. They did reprint Bladesinger, however.
Yes, but Bladesinger's really good.
Bladesinger's class.
And I think actually, did Swashbuckler appear in that?
Swashbuckler did appear in that first, actually, yes.
Yeah. So they kept the good stuff, but they kind of ditched like a couple classes. This is one of the ones, it still appears here, but honestly, it probably should have hit the chopping block with the rest of them as well.
And it's just a terrible name.
It's so specific to the setting, that's the problem.
But like purple is my favorite color, and I think that's a dumb name. Like
I don't mind the name, but it's very specific to the Sword Coast setting. It's about the Kingdom of Cormier. You know, so you kind of have to square peg round hole kind of situation to make it work.
Do you know what it reminds me of?
In other worlds, yeah.
Do you remember in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and Rocket asked that guy, "What's your name?" And he goes, Taserface! And the entire movie, it's about how ridiculous a name Taserface is. I feel like if we had like a battalion of fighters called in, and it's like, you got your gunslingers, you got your samurai, you got your rune knight, your Echo Knight is a great one as well, actually. You got your Echo Knights, you got your like cavaliers, your champions and all that. And they'd all be like, oh, what are you? It's like, I'm a samurai, I'm a gunslinger, I'm a rune knight, I'm an eldritch knight, I'm an Echo Knight. What are you? I'm a Purple Dragon Knight. Get out! Leave! You're not welcome.
I'm just picturing, what's that guy on YouTube with the animated purple dragon kind of head?
Oh, Joe Cat. The base. He's great, man. I love him. Shout out to Joe Cat.
Yeah, Purple Dragon Knight. You can get better results with the same. There's basically no theme there either, so you can get a better result with literally any other fighter and even some paladins and some barbarians. Moving on.
Yeah.
Psy Warrior. Psy Warrior, I won't stay on this one long either because it's just good. Yeah. It's just really, really good.
Do you want to play a
Jedi? Powers. Do you want to play a Jedi? You get telekinetic powers.
Or a Sith.
Or a Sith. We're the judge. but or a Grey Jedi.
The Grey Jedis are the coolest. I have heard about them. They're the coolest.
Yeah, they're not canon anymore though, because thank you Disney. But yeah, Psi Warrior, they're awesome. You get additional damage on your weapon using your Psi abilities. Also, they have one of the biggest pools of resources.
Yes.
Now, they have a load of abilities that are powered by those resources, but they get 2 times their proficiency.
They're like
their Psi points.
They kind of give me like an almost like monk feel with their side dice, and like similar to how like monks and key points function almost.
Yeah, not too similar.
I mean, in terms of, you know, you're given a very large pool of resources to use, but also your higher tier resources are your higher tier abilities are gonna cost a lot of those resources.
Yeah. You get protective fields, you get psionic strikes, which are force damage strikes. You can telekinetic move, you can lift things, you can push things. You get a bunch of stuff. Honestly, I've played this over a couple sessions with you.
Yeah.
And in just a couple sessions, I can see right off the bat I have so many options. I have so many points I can get or use for different things.
Their 10th level ability is so good for a melee martial class as well. Guarded mind, psionic energy flowing through you is bolstered your mind. You have resistance to psychic damage, and if you start your turn charmed or frightened, you can expend this. You can spend this psionic energy die, and every effect on yourself end every effect on yourself subjecting you to those conditions.
Not just one, all effects. So if you're like somehow in multiple effects, boom, both of them done.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Highly recommend Psi Warrior. Yeah, I said it right that time.
And at 18th level you get telekinesis.
You already have some abilities, and if you pair this with the telekinetic feat as well, you get the mage hand, and it's invisible. So you basically gonna have telekinesis for small objects, and then you get the 7th level one is it 7th level? No, sorry, it's the telekinetic movement is 3rd level, and you can lift objects that are like up to 30 feet away. You can push them and pull them. And then at higher levels, you can lift like large objects and large creatures and move them away. Like you can just pick up like ogres and drop them off of ledges, like it's really, really great. And telekinesis then is obviously the highest level one, but that's a really powerful spell. And it just builds on you being more and more force sensitive, so to speak.
Yeah, and all that is just layered on top of the already really strong fighter base.
Exactly. Yeah. All that is on top of you already being a kick-ass martial character.
And like second wind is actually like really powerful if you go straight fighter.
Oh yeah.
I only have 3 levels of fighter, so second wind when I second wind I'm relying on rolling high on the D10. But like perfect example, like Frost, we have him. He's my sidekick, and he gets second wind as part of the martial sidekick thing. And because he is a sidekick and he is now 14 levels, he rolls a D10 plus 14 when he rolls second wind. So regardless of what I roll, he's at least getting 15 hit points back, which is huge.
Yeah, that's substantial. Gunslinger, Martin, you and I are gonna have trouble.
Oh, because you don't like the gunslinger rules.
I just here's our problem, right? Okay, the class itself is good.
Yeah.
Like functionally, the class is really, really good. My main problem with the gunslinger is that the gunslinger, as it is designed by Matthew Mercer for Critical Role, one, it doesn't work with the standard DMG gun rules, which doesn't work with the gunner feat, and there's no synergy. Like the 3 of them don't work together. And even this class is like kind of bad, because what if you're in a world I want to play a gunslinger? It's like, oh, okay, there's muskets in this world, great. There's nothing in the gunslinger class that lets you ignore the loading properly. It lets you ignore or use the reload as a bonus action once you hit 15th level, I think it is.
I think isn't reload as a bonus action lower, and then when you hit like 15th level, it's like, oh no, 15th level, lightning reload. I just saw it there. I thought if for some reason I thought there was one where you could sack an attack to reload instead.
No, there's something like that. Don't you know it is? That is a thing. That is a lower level thing, I believe, though.
Okay, because like I know for a fact I've seen Percy do it in Critical Role, where he's been like, all right, I should normally have 4 attacks. Instead, I'm gonna sack 2 attacks so I can take 2 shots of bad news on this turn. Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. DMG rules for firearms that require reloading, because reloading is a rule that existed before the gunslinger class.
Because crossbows exist.
No, because that's loading still. this is reload, where you have
Oh,
to use an
okay.
action to reload. Rules as written in the DMG, you have to use an action to reload a weapon
They really
after it's
didn't want you
expended.
using guns when they originally wrote D&D, did they?
And then in this specific class, it says you can use an action or one attack from your attack action to reload, and then the bonus action later on. So it doesn't work with muskets, and the thing is, the gunner feat does work with muskets, but those two don't work with this class. And then on top of it all, I think that this is a little bit limiting in my mind, because I feel like the class is so specifically designed for Percy from Critical Role and who he is as not just a person who uses guns, but who designs and engineers and makes them and repairs them. If you don't want to be someone who has to carry around tools and have a decent intelligence and know how to repair your guns when they misfire, I don't really like all those mechanics. Also, the misfire is a negative mechanic, which is something that you don't typically get in fifth edition.
That is very Pathfinder. You're right, yeah.
Yeah. So that's my thing. I think the class is fine, and you've run it before for people. You know it's very functional. Yeah, exactly. It functions. It works. It's just I wish that it would be refined better to work with, because the thing is, you had the DMG rules, and then this came out, and then I'm like, okay, fine. If this is out, that's fine, and this is where we're going, great. But then they brought out the gunner feat after the fact, and I'm like, these things, there's like a misalignment of how these things work, you know?
Yeah,
that's my only problem with it. I know that functionally it is good. I just wish it lined up better with the other mechanics of the game. It makes it a bit of an outlier because it has to have such specific rules to work.
Just out of curiosity, I pulled up my my CL Frog Gunslingers sheet so I could see what his int scores. He's only got +1 int, and he does fine.
It's not a requirement when you're repairing your. You have to make an intelligence check or something like that, or to repair your firearm, you must make a Tinkerer's Tools check.
Yeah,
I suppose it could be Dex based as well.
Yeah, Tinker's Tools is basically Dex plus proficiency.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I'm misremembering.
So like as far as I remember anyway. But like it's never like it's him only having +1 int has never affected his ability as a gunslinger, ever.
Yeah.
Because
maybe it's grit is based on wisdom. Maybe I'm misremembering that part. So
yeah, grit. Your grit is based on wisdom, and what he has. Yeah, he's got +2 wisdom, so he's got 2 grit points, and like yeah. So like his stat array isn't like particularly powerful either. Like he's got 8 strength, 20 dex, 16 con, 12 int, 14 wisdom, and 13 charisma. Like that's pretty standard. Like.
I will say, just while we're on Gunslinger, actually, there is a part of a Gunslinger that I do really like, and I wish
is it the trick shots?
Well, no, because I mean the trick shots are more or less on power.
Hemorrhaging shot is so broken, and I'm so scared when he gets it because he already does so much damage.
No, I was going to say that trick shots are kind of they're your superior, they're your maneuvers.
Crap. He physically can't get hemorrhaging shot. I'm fine. It's the 18th level ability. He's gone 6 level.
Okay.
He's an 8/6 split at the moment from Rogue Fighter, so it's impossible for him to get anything beyond 12th level. And I think he's just going.
Now you just need to contend with him having sneak attack every single turn.
And he's just going more rogue levels now as well, so it's going to end up with 12 rogue. No, it's going to end up with a 14 rogue 6 fighter. So he's going to have 14 rogue levels worth of sneak attack on a sniper rifle.
That is hefty.
Yes.
There is one thing I do like about it though, and that is that when you score a critical hit with your gun, you get a grip point back.
Yes.
I like that mechanic.
Yeah.
I kind of wish
or
that
a kill.
maneuvers.
Is it not a crit or kill?
Or reduce someone to 0. Yeah. I think it might be as well.
It's the same way that a great weapon master decides if you get an extra attack.
Yes, yeah, but I kind of wish that like that momentum of getting a crit, now we get an extra thing, kind of carried through it a little bit more.
Yeah,
but, it's a good mechanic.
Like I do like fan the hammer. Like you just goes like boom, 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 and then like one of them crits, and it's like bang, bang, bang. The other 3 shots go off. Like, yeah. Although no, that's action surge actually. Is the fan the hammer. Bang, 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 bang.
We're gonna go on to Eldritch Knight.
Yes.
I think people sleep on Eldritch Knight an awful lot. I don't think it gets the credit it deserves. It's actually a really good class. You need to be clever. You can't just be like picking damaging spells. I like to rely on, if I build an Eldritch Knight, I like to rely on my weapon, my martial stuff for actual damage, and then utility and kind of defensive stuff. Like I take shields. If I'm an Eldritch Knight, I take shield every goddamn time.
100%.
Because it's
shield with plate armor.
You already have like plate armor
yeah.
and whatever else. casting shield on top of that, like you're almost guaranteed to block a hit. Like,
I will say the weapon bond is one of my favorite things in all of D&D. Like I love
Yeah.
being able to like summon and dismiss weapons. Like Eru could do it when I went Blade Lock. Like I could banish and conjure up my sword and I'm and that is the coolest thing. I don't care. I do not care. It's
Star Wars. It's summoning your lightsaber back to your hand and just being ready to go.
It's
like,
the same reason why Mjolnir is so goddamn cool. It's because it comes back to his hand. Like,
yeah,
it's okay.
There is just the axe floats up in your face.
No, Stormbreaker also comes back to be fair.
True. So there's what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, the weapon bond is cool. And the thing is, the thing I never got to do in the campaign I was playing in Gavin's game, because my character got killed and so did another player's character. His name was Ugwe, and he was a turtle, unsurprisingly. But he had a warhammer, and the two of us were killed and left in the basement of a burning house. So basically, kind of entombed underneath all the stuff. I had a whole thing where I spoke to a death god and came back, and I made a point that I was like, okay, I'm going to bury Ugwe respectfully. Down here, I'll dig a hole and I'll bury him, and I'll make sure he's laid to rest. I'm going to take his hammer, and I'm going to bury it with him, but before I do, I'll take an hour to bond with his hammer. And I wanted there to be a moment later in the campaign where I needed to grab a second weapon so I could fight like more or hit extra and stuff. And I would, or if I lost my weapon, and I would just be like, I summoned my hand Ugwe's hammer, and I just look across at Ty, and he'd be just like, "That's Ugwe's hammer," and I'd be like, "Yes, it is."
Yeah.
Like, because fucking 6 months ago I bonded to that, and I haven't broken the connection since. And I just thought it'd be cool to be like, I'm wielding the hammer of my dead friend. Now you're gonna get fucked up.
Yeah, it's very.
I had a whole thing in my head, but I never got to play it out. Anyway, moving on. Echo Knight. Echo Knight is a little bit... Okay, here's the thing. I didn't get Echo Knight until today, and I was doing research for this, right? Do you know what the great thing about Echo Knight is? Your Echo is not a creature.
No.
It's an object.
Yes.
That is the crux of this class, is that it is an object and not a creature. So many spells, like, do not affect the actual Echo at all, because it's a creature, and it's just... Because the spells are written that way, it just doesn't have any effect on them.
It's also basically the Shadow Clone move from Naruto.
Essentially, yeah. I actually did think, because the way we have canonically in our D&D world, there is like, you are bound, hundreds of spirits are bound to you by accident, but there's also
yes, you were telling is it like hobgoblins or something in the
I was going to say the Gold Pact. They basically judge dreads for hire, and they are, like I said, they're judge dreads, but they have this thing where I thought it'd be cool to, if someone wanted to play one of them who was also an ancestral guardian, the explanation could be that they are bound to 2 other dead judges, and together they form a tribunal, which is one person, 3 spirits.
Like the Living Tribunal in Marvel.
I'm not familiar with that, but
it's basically that. It's quite it's a similar concept.
Okay, but yeah, that'd be the idea. I was thinking earlier today, it could be cool if someone was bound to one person like that, that you could use an Echo Knight. It doesn't have to be like an alternate reality. It could be a ghost that is bound to you as well, you know, flavor wise. And it could, because I did see one person online had a really cool one where she played a girl, like an elf girl, and she had a twin brother, but he was killed when they were younger.
Oh, I love that.
Her brother's spirit's bound to her, and she could summon him in a fight, and he'd come to her sister. It was really cool.
I love that.
On top of that as well, the art they had done for this had them both looking like a bit like Evie and your man from Assassin's Creed Syndicate, where they're like Victorian top hats and kind of like the frilly kind of ties and stuff like that. Very, very cool. Eldritch Knight. It's a bit of a
Echo Knight.
Sorry.
Echo Knight.
Oh, I said Eldritch, didn't I? Sorry. Echo Knight. It's a bit more tricky mechanically, but I do think there is I've heard a lot of people who play it actually genuinely really, really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the more mechanically intense fighter subclasses, but again, I feel like most of the really intense stuff you have to get to grip it really quickly is like your initial level 3 abilities, where Manifest Echo, where you can, so it's got 14 AC, 1 hit point, and I love that it's immune to all conditions. That's amazing.
Exactly, yeah.
Which is really, really good. But like, Command the Echo, So on your turn, you can mentally command the echo to move up to 30 feet in any direction. No action required. If your echoes are for more than 30 feet, it's destroyed. And you can use it in these ways. As a bonus action, you can teleport, magically swapping places with your echo at a cost of 15 feet of movement. So that already kind of papers over one of the weaknesses of a fighter, which is mobility. Because most fighters don't really get any mobility abilities, which is
unless you take feats or specific racial stuff or something like that.
Or the Psy Knight that gets to fly. Psy Warrior, god damn it. When you make the attack action, when you make the attack action on your turn, any attack you make with that action can originate from your space or your echo space. So it's very, very similar to how the Wildfire Spirit Druid can cast from their Wildfire Spirit, can cast like spells out of it, which is really, really good. And it
something that works really well with that, rules as written, Sentinel worked with that, because when you make an opportunity attack, it's you making it through your echo. So even though the echo might be the one reacting when someone moves away from it, you are the one enacting the actual action, meaning you get to use a reaction and you get to use Sentinel along with it.
Yes.
So it does work that way. That works in tandem.
Very, very cool. And what's particularly cool about it is it's any attack you make. So when you action surge, your echo action surges, which is so good. And whatever creature you see within 5 feet of your echo moves in 5 feet, you can use it. Oh, that's literally what you just said. Is the third thing. So those are the three things you really just have to get into your head with it, which aren't like they aren't super hard to get around to. Like you'd pick that up pretty easy.
It's one third level ability, but there's a little bit to it. But honestly, at third level, you don't have much else to worry about, so you have time to get used to it and focus on it. By the time you're like 5th and 6th level, you'll have such a handle on that everything else will just come really, really naturally to you.
And it ties in really, really well with the other third level ability. You got Unleash in Incarnation, where you get to, whenever you take the attack action, your echo gets to make an additional attack.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
again, and it's a bit like the Samurai then, where you're getting that extra attack every turn. It's not like is this every turn or?
Yeah. Anytime you take the attack action.
Yeah, so I mean, like, again, that's going to stack up a lot, like, you know.
And that would also count with your action surge, because you use your action to take the attack action, you do your 2 attacks, you action surge, you use your additional action to take the attack action again, you get another 2 attacks. So that's now your echo attacks 4 times and it gets an additional 2 attacks because of the 2 times you've taken the attack action. So you attack 4 times and your echo attacks 6 times.
It's really good.
That's level 3.
We're coming up on time, so I'm going to run through these last couple really, really quickly. Champion. Champion is not very flavorful, but you know what? Mechanically, it's sound.
I don't like Champion.
Okay.
Because it's too plain. It is the cream cracker of fighter subclasses.
Yeah, it basically all it really does is expand on pre-existing fighter things by giving you extra feature, like extra
the additional fighting
styles and stuff. Yeah, no. And you already crit on a 20, now you crit on a 19 or 20, and later on an 18, 19 or 20.
Yeah, Champion, like traditionally, if someone's new, why does it be like play fighter, play Champion?
Yeah, exactly, and like we can change you over to a battle master later if you want more mechanics. Like it's not bad mechanically. It works. It does what it's meant to. It just doesn't give you a lot of. Now, like we said earlier in the podcast, that could be a good thing if you have a really cool idea and you think you can make Champion work for it. By all means, because the class is not mechanically weak. No. Critting on an 18, a 19 or 20 may seem like such a small increase.
It's a 10% chance. So much stacks.
Yeah, it's a lot. Move on. Cavalier. Cavalier is something I think it's overlooked. Mechanically, it's only fine.
I've seen a really broken and cool Cavalier build where you.
Oh really?
Yeah. You pick a halfling and you make your mount a cave spider.
Oh, that's cool. I was gonna say massive, but cave spider is way cooler.
So now you have a mount that can traverse all terrain. It's got poison damage in its attack, and it's small enough to fit in any dungeon.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, Cavalier only really works, I think, for halflings, because realistically, you're not going to be taking horses or ride on bears or anything like that into most places. So you lose out on some of it just because it's really designed for mounted combat.
It is good though. Like Unwavering Mark and Warding Maneuver are a really powerful combo where like you mark someone, and then if they attack someone else, you get to attack them back and all that kind of stuff. Like and do more damage and proc stuff. Like it's definitely it's no Purple Dragon Knight. Like it's actually good.
Well. No one's quite on the level of Purple Dragon Knight.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fine. If you really want to play that kind of thing, I think you could make something. Like you said, there's definitely builds out there that will work.
Yes.
Up next, Battle Master. Nothing needs to be said. Battle Master, I think, is the quintessential fighter class. I think that should be the base fighter class, and everything else should be building on that. It's got it's got tons of moves. Only recently we got more moves when Tasha's came out. You get fighting styles.
Bait and switch. Bait and switch.
Bait and switch is so good.
Actually, Orym uses that really effectively in Critical Role a bunch of times. Orym is a great example of a fighter and an interesting fighter. And he's not even one, like, he's just a battle master. But like he does really cool stuff with his.
Battle masters are like we said a while ago. Like if you want to have like with fighters, they have fewer tools, but you can use them in interesting combos. Now imagine if you had fewer tools and interesting combos, but now you have 10 more tools on top of that you can also use in interesting combos. Battle masters are great. Here's my rant.
Okay, I'm just gonna 1 second now. I'm gonna put my feet up on the desk here because
we don't have 1 second. We're coming up on time. All
right, go.
Here's how this goes. Arcane Archer. All right.
Yes.
I got beef with Arcane Archer. We talked about this before. I won't actually have a rant. We talked about Arcane Archer before. I think the class is a little bit disappointing. I think there's some core stuff that could make it more flavorful and also make it mechanically more sound. Arcane Archer, in my mind, should be the ranged magical version of what is the melee mundane Battle Master. Battle Master does not use magic. Battle Master is typically melee, but you can make it work for ranged builds as well.
Oh no, there's no restriction on the Battle Master maneuvers. It says it has to be a melee attack. You can make someone afraid of you with an arrow.
Yeah, you can. There's something like shove. You can shoot an arrow at someone and knock them back 5 or 10 feet.
Which is so cool.
Yeah, the power in that shot. But yeah, I think in my mind the Arcane Archer should be the magical ranged counter or opposite side of that coin to the Battle Master, and it's not. There's a few things I came across this Reddit thread today about it, and it kind of puts it in really good perspective, right? So it's like 5 things here that they call out as being wrong with the class. Most of them I can get over, but there's 1 or 2 I think that would be good to see. 1, you have 4 uses of your Battle Master maneuvers or superiority dice versus 2, and that scales to 6 with Battle Master from 4 to 6 by the time you're higher levels. It stays at 2 the entire time you're an Arcane Archer.
You know what? I'm right with you now. I actually hate that because I've built Arcane Archers before for one shots, and I did not play the character in the one shot because I realized I would only be able to get to do the thing the whole class is based around 2 times.
Yeah, and it's short rest, but so are superiority dice. So like, what's the deal? They do slightly more damage typically, but only very it's 2d6 like in most things versus like a d8 or a d10 on a battle. So average wise, it's slightly better, but only marginally.
Yeah.
I know they get some cool effects, but we'll get onto that. So that's one thing. I think easy way to solve this: just tie the number of shots you can do to your proficiency. Boom, done.
Absolutely.
You start off slower, but you will even out with the Battle Master by the end game. Let's see. 2. You can only use 1 of those per turn, whereas you can burn as many superiority dice in the turns you want.
I burn all of them in the tournament, look.
You do. I'm not super against that one. I think it's fine. If you want to put that in as a balancing thing, because there is an innate advantage that comes with being a ranged fighter who's 60, 80, 100 feet away versus someone who has to be in 5 feet. I'm not too upset about that one. It's definitely a drawback comparatively, but it's not a big deal. 3. All the Battle Master stuff works off your primary stat. So strength or dex, regardless of what build you want to do, all your saving throws for your superiority stuff works via your strength or dex, whichever you prefer. In this, it works off of int, which is separate from your dex, which is going to be what you're using for your bows. So you have to kind of split hairs on that one. It's not the worst. Like other classes do it, rangers do it, monks do it with dex and wisdom.
Paladins,
bards, some bards do it with charisma and dex as well. For like paladins do it. It's not the worst thing in the world. You can get over that. 4 is kind of they're more versatile. Battle Masters are, and I think Battle Masters can do a wider range of things with their moves. But I think that similarly to like wizards and actual casters, I do think that Arcane Archers are intended to be more specialized in what they do. Because if you look at some of the stuff they do, like some arrows can charm,
they have
some
like
arrows
banishing
can banish.
shit. Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. There's one where you hit someone and just getting closed in like a sphere of darkness and can't see anything, isn't it?
There's one where if you have seen the person, I think in the last minute, you can no longer see
Yeah,
them. As long
yeah,
as they're
yeah,
still
yeah.
in range, you can just shoot the arrow and it will seek them. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
And
You
if you
couldn't
have
do that.
sharpshooter, there's nowhere they can hide.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Can you
So
imagine
yeah,
that being in a different town, and you're like, "Where's this guy? He's in the next city," and you just point your bow at the sky and shoot an arrow and say its name, and you watch that thing
yeah.
fly up and go across into a city, and you just hear, "Ah,
Ow, my face.
my pancreas!"
So I'm okay with that. I think that's just a different in design choice.
Yes.
And 5, and this is really easy. And honestly, if anyone came to me and asked me for this in a game I was running, I wouldn't even think twice about it. Crossbows should be included in the weapons you can use. It really makes no sense that it's only bows. I actually looked up a thing today, and I found a tweet from Jeremy Crawford where someone, a different game designer, we won't mention his name, said to someone that it was an oversight that they didn't include crossbows in that. And then this person tweeted Crawford and was like, can you explain that more? And Crawford just said it wasn't an oversight. They intentionally did not include crossbows. Now, I don't know why. I can't for the life of me figure it out. Mechanically, they're not that different in terms of damage output and stuff, so I don't think there's anything there.
I'd imagine maybe
the
the heavy crossbow is something being a D10 might have something to do with that.
I don't think that's enough damage to really warrant it, though. What I think, and the only reason I can imagine it, is if, from a design perspective, you are building the Arcane Archer as like a classical elven tradition that is like an old school thing, you wouldn't include what is relatively modern technology, like a crossbow, in the elven thing like that. That's the only reason I can think, but it's not the worst thing in the world. I think the only ones now of those 5 that I mentioned that I would truly change is the first one with the number of shots you get, and just include crossbows. Two easy things. I do also think that for the 7th level ability, it would be cool to no longer require ammunition. You can just draw and a magic arrow appears.
Sick.
I mean, realistically, people don't count arrows very much anyways, so that would just be mostly flavorful, and it would go a long way into making you the Arcane Archer.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I find the crossbow thing particularly weird as well, because I know from going blade lock with Eru that if you take the improved packed weapon thing, but the improved packed weapon invocation with blade lock, you can summon bows and crossbows.
Yeah, and they can be your packed weapon. Yeah, it's bad. But Martin,
Yes, Connor.
that's all the time we have for today.
Oh, it's been a long time since we've had to do that.
I just realized I don't think I have. So I do have an outro. Good.
Hey!
Okay. I thought I didn't have it ready. No, that was good. It's good to be back, buddy.
Yes, it's very, very good
I
to
think
be back.
I think we got a good thing in. I like how we were like, 40 minutes. That's loads of time to talk about fighters. And towards the end, we were really rushing there.
Oh yeah.
But no, man, fighters are so good. I thoroughly enjoy them. I think they can be so flavorful and so you have so much more opportunity to write them the way you want and give them their own flavor and stuff like that. And I think, and I also think mechanically, so many of them are. Do you know what it is? I think if I was to describe fighters in a word, it would be consistent.
Yes, they're absolutely.
They do consistent damage. They block a consistent amount of the incoming strikes. They have a good middle kind of ground of health. It's not a lot. It's not a little. It's a good kind of middle ground there.
D10 hit die. Yeah.
D10 hit dice. They get armor proficiencies, weapon proficiencies. They're never going to be the one necessarily that's going to do.
They're not a skill
180. No, they're not. They get some, but they get some.
They get some.
You know, they're not like wizards or whatever, or not wizards.
Rogues or barbs.
Who get, I think barbs get 2, but then rogues get like 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
So like they're in the middle. I think they get like 3 or something like that. So they're middle of the road, but like in a way that like is reliable. No, do you know what? No, forget consistent. They're reliable. They are reliable. They are not the best at many things. They're far from the worst at most things. They are reliable, and it means if you want to build a good, fun, heroic character for your campaign, you're not really sure how the game works, you're new to the campaign or new to the 5e and stuff, play a fighter and build on the parts you like, and I promise you'll do decent amounts of damage, you'll survive a decent amount of time health-wise, you'll have the skills you want without being overly skilled like a bard or something like that. Yeah, and you'll just get a good all-round character. So I think reliable is the way to go with them. If you have any stories, any questions you'd like us to ask, stories you'd like us to share, or topics you would like us to cover, please tweet us at MicFlayersPod on Twitter. You can find our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor Breaker, and Radio Republic. Aaron, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on the internet. That's on Twitter at So Sorry It's Over. I very nearly went into. I'll say it anyway. And you can also find the podcast on Twitter at MicFlayersPod. Sorry, that is just a habit I've developed now from the short videos. Connor, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on the internet at 0.Conor on Twitter, ZeroPointConor. And other than that, mostly here on the Micflayers podcast.
You left it out. You left
what
it out.
What did I say? Oh, wait, what's the thing? I do a thing. Oh my god, I did. No, cut it. Redo. It's been like 6 weeks, man. I'm gonna take that again. You can find me on Twitter at 0.Conor, ZeroPointConor. 1N.
Back in the game.
It's been a while, man. It's been a while, and also I'm really sweaty and warm. My office sucks. But yeah, that's all we have for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope we're glad to be back. We hope you're glad we're back. We'll have more episodes of the Micflayers podcast coming up. Hopefully, we'll have a few one-offs coming up as well for other D&D related stuff.
Yeah, there is that 14-page Unearthed Arcana that I was too scared to tackle on my own while you were gone.
I don't even know that I want to tackle that one. It's a team.
I know. We can take 7 pages each, man. It'll be fine.
Guys, that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye bye.